If you're looking for another great podcast to listen to after this one, I'd like to recommend SheMD. SheMD is on a mission to change the world of women's health by educating one woman at a time with the knowledge and expertise to be her own health advocate. Sadly, a lot of women's health concerns aren't taken seriously, and even more, health research that includes women is still not standard today. So you need to be your own advocate. Each episode of SheMD features conversations with high-profile guests and medical specialists offering empowering knowledge and advice. From fertility and PCOS to mental health and menopause, SheMD tackles all the major health concerns, all from the lens of a woman. Check out SheMD wherever you get your podcasts today. This is The Planted Runner. I'm Coach Claire Bartholic. The number one way you can become a better runner is to run more. The only problem with that is, well, there are a lot of problems with that. The first thing is that if you're just starting out, running too much, too soon, or too often is a really bad idea. Your bones, muscles, and tendons aren't yet used to the pounding of running, even if you are cardiovascularly fit from another sport. So you have to gradually build up your running over time with plenty of recovery time in between sessions. Gradually, your body will adapt and you will be able to run more and more and more until it's a bad idea again. Everyone's mileage sweet spot will be a little different, and it definitely will change with how you fuel, how you sleep, and lots of other factors. But at a certain point, running will break you down more than it builds you up. The next problem with all this running is that it takes so much time. To be really fit for the marathon, for example, you need to invest 5, 10, maybe even 15 hours a week or more running. That is a serious part-time job. If you have a busy life outside of running, and let's face it, we all do, this can be a real challenge. Wouldn't it be great if you could run less and still be the best runner you can be? Let's find out how. Welcome to The Planted Runner. I'm Coach Claire Bartholic, and my mission is to help you improve your running, your mindset, and your life with science-backed training and plant-based nutrition. On today's show, I'm going to reveal some great ways to better fit your training into your busy life. I'll go over exactly how much time you need to invest in training for endurance races from the 5K to the marathon, how to maximize your training into less overall time, and how to organize your schedule so you can train better without wrecking the rest of your life. If you're ready to jump into a new distance, or if you're feeling overwhelmed with your current schedule, I'll share the info you need to maximize your miles. Don't forget to stay tuned all the way to the end of the episode for another Mental Strength Minute. Fortify your mind in 60 seconds or less. Before I get into some ways to train more effectively in less overall time, let's break down exactly what kind of time commitment you need. If you're training for the 5K, which is a 3.1 mile race, and you're starting from scratch and just want to finish it, not race it in your fastest possible time, you can probably get away with running or even run walking 2 or 3 times a week. Depending on your pace, this could be 30 to 45 minutes or more for each run, which comes out to be about an hour and a half or 2.5 hours of running per week. If you're trying to race the 5K hard, or if you're moving up to the 10K, you definitely want to be running 3 times a week or more, running a bit longer most days, and including a longer run one of those days. I would say your bare minimum time invested is 3 hours. But it probably averages 4 or 5, and experienced runners will likely run a lot more. Your long run typically doesn't need to build much higher than 12 miles maximum because you want to have fresh legs and energy to run hard on your speed days. Speed days for the 5K are more intense than for longer races, but they also tend to be shorter time-wise. If your long run is too long, you simply can't build top-end speed 2 days later. This is definitely a case where running longer isn't always better. When we move up to the half marathon, this is where your commitment needs to ramp up, but it still doesn't have to completely overtake your life. You can race the half running 3 days a week, but my recommendation would be to work up to 4 or 5 days of running. The reason for this is because you will want to build up your long run to at least 13 miles, or up to as long as 16 miles for experienced runners. And if you try to do that only running 3 days a week, your long run will tend to dominate the balance of your training. You'll also want to include 1 or 2 speed days a week, and if you're only running 3 days, you don't have any room for easy recovery runs, which are incredibly beneficial. In most cases, it's better to spread out your mileage over 4 or 5 days rather than have 2 or 3 longer, harder days. Your total time investment for the half marathon can range from 4 to even 10 hours per week. When we get to the marathon, your time investment seriously goes up. While it's possible to train for a marathon and 3 days of running a week, I strongly discourage it. It's simply not enough stimulation of your system to get the training you need to run 26.2 miles. Yes, you can do it, but race day is going to be much, much harder if you choose this route. I recommend 4 days at minimum, and very advanced runners can choose to run every day or even run twice a day, only resting when they truly need it. Now, this is an extreme approach to marathon training, and I only recommend you try that if you've maxed out all your other options and you are experienced and healthy. Just about everyone should stick to at least 1 rest day a week, and more often 2 rest days a week. Your weekly mileage should be at least 40 miles a week at your peak for the marathon. Of course, I've seen runners race a marathon on 30 miles a week, but again, this is not a great idea. Top-end mileage for experienced but non-elite runners could be in the 50, 60, or 70 mile per week range, but I would say most people do well in the 40 to 60 mile range. Sure, some people go way higher than that. The vast majority of runners don't need to go that high. Part of what will determine your mileage is how long your miles take you to run. If your relaxed, easy pace is 10 minutes per mile, you'll run 6 miles per hour. So in 3 hours, you'll get in 18 miles for your long run. The 3-hour mark is important because right about there is when the aerobic benefits of your run start to decline, your form starts to really suffer, and your risk of injury goes up. Now, that doesn't mean you can't run longer than that or shouldn't run longer than that, but you're really not getting great benefits from it. If you really want to get in that 20-miler, finishing in 3 hours and 20 minutes isn't going to wreck you. But the extra couple of miles are really more for the mental benefits than the physical ones. Okay, so what is the time commitment for the marathon? Well, at our peak, we've got our 3-hour long run, and we'll want to run about an hour on the other 3 days, give or take. So that's 6 hours. Most advanced runners will be running in the 8 to 15 hours per week range. And this is just the running part. This doesn't include strength training, stretching, warming up, plyometrics, foam rolling, planning your meals and snacks, lying on the couch because you're exhausted, showering and getting dressed twice a day, shopping for new running shoes, or doing all the extra laundry you're about to produce. This is just exhausting talking about this. Now, I don't want to discourage anyone from really going for the training for the race of your life because of how much time it's going to take. Doing anything worthwhile in life is going to take time and commitment. And of course, part of the lure of running is the time that you have all to yourself away from everything else that you're doing. But with smart planning, you can maximize your training time and minimize the negative impact it's having on the rest of your life. I'll go over how to do that when we come back.
I don't know about you, but those heavy, ugly plastic jugs of laundry detergent make no sense to me. You're paying for mostly water, they take up a ton of room in your laundry room, and then you toss the huge plastic jug in the recycling. And did you know that 500 million of those bottles end up in landfills and oceans every single year? That's why I made the switch to Earth Breeze laundry sheets. They come in plastic-free packaging, take up almost no space, and you're not wasting your money paying for watery detergent. It's an easy way to get clean clothes without all that plastic waste. Get 40% off with your subscription at earthbreeze.com/plantedrunner. That's earthbreeze.com/plantedrunner.
Welcome back to The Planted Runner. I'm Coach Claire Bartholic. Running less and being able to run faster is a really attractive concept. In fact, there are books and training plans designed to do just that. Their idea is that you only run 3 times a week and you're running pretty hard on those days. What they don't mention in the catchy title is on most of your non-running days, you should be doing some other kind of aerobic cross training like biking or swimming. From a time-saving perspective, you're not really spending less time exercising. Instead of getting your nice and easy aerobic work from slow running, you're spending that time on the bike. This can work well for some athletes who don't handle higher mileage due to the pounding of running, but I would argue that you're getting more impact from pounding out fast miles than you would on a 4-mile easy jog. Now, there are lots of ways cross-training can be great for your running, which I'm not going to go into now, but running less isn't necessarily saving you time here. So how do we save time and get in all the training we need? My first tip is to have a plan. When you actually have to make a decision every single day about what you will do and when, it's mentally draining. You can get a training plan online, hire a coach, or write a plan yourself, but have a plan and put it on your calendar just like anything else. Of course, I am happy to make a custom training plan for you if you need some help there. All of my plans come with all the running, strength training, mobility, and more to take your mind off the planning part so you can focus on your training. Check them all out at theplantedrunner.com/plans. That's theplantedrunner.com/plans. Studies have shown that the most consistent exercisers are the ones that do it first thing in the morning when nothing else gets in the way. But that doesn't mean you can't be consistent if you prefer to work out in the afternoon. You just have to pick a time that works for you and your lifestyle. It should be a time when you have the least amount of friction or potential for interference from the rest of your life. For some people, that's after the kids are in bed. As long as you're getting enough sleep, the time of the day really doesn't matter too much. Now that you have your plan that you are diligently going to adhere to, give yourself some grace to be flexible with it. Even the best planning will not work out perfectly all the time, so don't beat yourself up if you miss a run. If you can move the run later in the week, that's great, but for the most part, let whatever run you missed go and just move forward. As long as you don't make skipping runs a habit, your fitness will be just fine. My next tip is to batch your training. See what you can do that can serve double duty. For example, you know you need to warm up before your runs, but you also know you need a little bit of plyometrics and mobility work. Why not make your warm-up work harder? You could do jumping jacks or skip rope for 3 minutes before your run, then spend 2 minutes doing a little dynamic stretching. Throw in a few lunges and air squats just for fun. Boom, plyos and mobility are done and you're ready to run. When you're back from your run, take 10 to 15 minutes to do some strength training. Lunges, squats, deadlifts, and planks are key exercises for runners, and 15 minutes of this 3 times a week, especially if you grab some heavy weights, will make a massive difference in your running. By stacking your strength training on the back of your runs, you are only getting sweaty once, and you don't have to carve out another day to focus on strength. The other bonus to this is that it's not just time saving, it's smart training. When you piggyback your strength training on your hardest days of running, you are concentrating your hard efforts, which allows you to stretch out your recovery. Instead of running long on Sunday, doing strength on Monday, then trying to run a workout on Tuesday, you leave Monday free to rest or do an easy jog. This allows you to fully recover from Sunday and be fresh and fast on Tuesday. But now you might be thinking, wait, Coach Claire, you just added 20 minutes to my run with this strength and stretching stuff. We're trying to save time here. Yes, that is true. But hopefully it is saving you time during the rest of the week since you are getting everything knocked out all at once. But if you're not doing any strength training, plyos, or mobility right now, and you have very limited time to exercise, I would recommend that you shorten your run by 10 to 15 minutes and add these in instead. Losing a mile or so of running is far less impactful than skipping this work, so let's figure out a way to get it in. Another option, if you don't want to trim miles, is to find ways to squeeze this into your day. 5 minutes of jumping jacks or squats in between your Zoom meetings isn't going to make you break a sweat. This is probably harder to build as a habit if it's random, but there are ways to make it happen. The next thing to look at is how you're spending your rest days and the time you are not exercising. You absolutely need rest and recovery to grow as an athlete, but that does not mean literally no movement. Find ways to sneak some extra walking in. Maybe you pace the floor during phone calls or park farther away from the grocery store. This might sound trivial, but it really adds up and improves your total fitness. You can get away with far fewer running miles in your training if you're logging walking miles into the rest of your life. If you're running as much as possible and then collapsing on the couch for the rest of your day, I would argue that your training is not balanced or as productive as you think it is. And finally, my last tip is to choose your goal wisely. The marathon gets all the love, and it's an amazing accomplishment to complete one. But if you simply don't have the time to get in all the work that you need, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Or maybe you don't seem to have the time because you really don't want to give up pancake breakfast with the kids on weekends, or sleeping in late, or my personal favorite, long hours gardening in your backyard. The marathon isn't the only worthy distance out there. You can be a complete beast at the 5K in a fraction of the time you need to invest in marathon training. Endurance running, by definition, takes a long time, so find something that inspires you and fits your lifestyle, and then train for it really, really well. And now it's time for the Mental Strength Minute. Fortify your mind in 60 seconds or less. Today's topic is abundance mentality. If you get overly nervous before a speed day or really down on yourself when you miss your splits on a workout, this is an example of scarcity mentality. You believe that this one workout matters so much and you'll be a failure if you fail to meet your expectations on this one day. The reality is your training is made up of an abundance of days, runs, and workouts. If one run isn't perfect, and most of them aren't, you can let that go because there will be another one. No single workout is that important. It's the totality of consistent workouts that develops an athlete. When you cultivate an abundance mentality when it comes to your runs, no single workout has the power to break you down. Instead, every single one builds you up. Thank you for listening to The Planted Runner, part of the Evergreen Podcast Network. Don't forget that you can win free access to one of my sprint session masterclasses just for writing an Apple Podcast review. So be sure to write yours right after your run today. Reviews are the #1 way to boost this show's reach, and it's a great way to tell me what you'd like to hear next because I read every single one. Have a great run today.
Hear Her Sports is a podcast for everyone who loves stories by and about women striving to improve and make a difference in their lives. I am your host, Elizabeth Emery, a former professional cyclist. In every episode, I introduce a female athlete or woman in the business of sport through a thoughtful conversation about who they are and the terrific work they're doing. My guests and I explore the glorious and frustrating issues in sports, history, equity, training, nutrition, and so much more. Join us for inspiration, for community, and for love of being a strong, athletic woman.